I'll begin at the point where the truth hit hardest. I discovered it by chance. A small tube tucked away in the side pocket of her handbag. Men's lubricant. Not ours. Never ours. My body froze, my fingers hovering over the fabric, as if it were electrified. My wife, my partner of 8 years, had never introduced anything like that into our home. Not for me. Not for us. That tiny object spoke louder than any confession could. She was cheating. I didn't shout. I didn't confront her. I simply zipped the pocket closed, returned the bag to its place, and walked away. My expression remained calm, but my chest burned with a fury I could barely contain. That night, while she showered, I sat on the edge of our bed, replaying memories like an endless reel. Her laughter at our wedding, her weary smile after our first miscarriage, the nights she held my hand when I couldn't sleep, broken and hollow. For a fleeting second, I questioned myself. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe there was an innocent explanation. But then I recalled the late work meetings, the sudden secrecy with her phone, the way she had begun sleeping at the far edge of the mattress. No, I wasn't mistaken. That tube was not an accident. It was a statement. And statements like that leave marks. The plan didn't come immediately. Revenge is never sudden. It simmers quietly, growing darker, heavier, until it demands acknowledgement. For days, I played the devoted husband. I kissed her cheek, prepared meals, listened as she pretended to be exhausted. But behind the facade, I was meticulously crafting my response. Not literal knives, but ones sharper, ones that cut deeper into betrayal. I started with evidence. I examined her texts while she slept, her phone dangling loosely in her hand. There it was, Kareem, a colleague married with 2 children. Their exchanges weren't only about desire. They were emotional. She shared things with him that she no longer confided in me. That was more painful than any act. I didn't confront her. I documented everything, neatly stacking screenshots and copies in a folder only I knew existed. Insurance for the inevitable storm. And then there was the lubricant, that silver taunt, lying in her bag like a wound I couldn't ignore. One evening, when she left it unattended in the living room while showering, I acted. I unscrewed the cap, emptied the contents in silence, and filled it with clear, unyielding superglue. I resealed it flawlessly. Not a trace remained. I didn't hurry. I let the days pass, letting her confidence grow while I waited patiently. I watched her pack that bag for work, steady and calm, heart cold as ice. I imagined the horror that would follow when she and Kareem tried to use it. Their skin against skin, pleasure twisting instantly into panic and pain. It wasn't merely about suffering. It was about revelation. The night arrived sooner than I anticipated. A Friday, she mentioned going out with coworkers. Her tone casual, practiced. I kissed her forehead, smiled faintly, and told her not to be late. An hour later, I followed. Kareem's apartment wasn't difficult to locate. I had tracked it carefully. I parked 2 streets away, shadows shifting behind the windows. My phone buzzed. "Don't wait up," she texted. I almost laughed. The performance began 20 minutes later. Screams erupted into the street. A woman's cry, a man's roar of agony. I stepped closer, unseen, watching through the half-open curtains. Kareem clutched himself. She panicked, both ensnared by a lust that had turned into catastrophe. Neighbors gathered. Someone called for help. Lights from emergency vehicles danced across the walls. Kareem stumbled out, pants half undone, humiliation pouring off him. My wife followed, tears streaking her face, trying desperately to explain the unexplainable. Everyone there witnessed the collapse, the exposure. They were not just caught, they were shattered. But I wasn't finished. The next morning, while she slept in the guest room, broken from shame, I organized the evidence. I printed screenshots, bound them neatly in a manila envelope, and sent copies to Kareem's wife, his HR department, and finally to her parents. The consequences were catastrophic. Kareem's wife filed for divorce. His company suspended him. My wife's parents called me, voices heavy with disappointment, asking how she could betray someone who had given her everything. When she awoke, She found her belongings packed at the door. My silence was harsher than any words could be. She begged, cried, pleaded, swore meant nothing, but her tears were selfish, not remorseful. I handed her the divorce papers, already prepared, set the pen in her shaking hand, and walked away. I didn't shout. I didn't insult. I simply claimed my freedom. Revenge isn't fire. It's ice. It doesn't erupt violently. It creeps, hardening over time until the betrayer is trapped in the glass cage of their own making. When people ask why I appear so calm, I smile. They cannot comprehend the satisfaction of silence, the beauty of allowing someone to unravel with the very instruments of their deception. She thought she was clever. She thought I was blind. But I observed everything, waited patiently, and chose my moment. Now she bears scars deeper than mine. I lost a wife, yes, but I gained a far greater prize. The unshakable knowledge that betrayal only wields power if you surrender to it. True revenge isn't anger. It's control. And control is something I never lost, not for a single moment.